Good morning. So I wanted to put together this video because I had a number of emails this morning about people who were struggling uploading their assignment or having trouble completing the assignment, and then one person who had their processor lock up. So I'm going to kind of touch on each of those issues. First one was a number of people were saying when they tried to upload to MyMHCC, it was saying invalid file type. And that can happen when we're uploading videos because it's typically looking for images or PDFs, that sort of thing. So that's why I was having you guys zip the files. It always will take zip files, and also that reduces the file size, so saves you time uploading and me time downloading all of them. So just a reminder, zip any of your big files that you're uploading, like videos. The next thing was when I was trying to help some folks troubleshoot their actual program itself, I asked them to send me their connected components workbench file. And as a reminder, I mentioned it in one of the previous videos, but I clearly need to clarify more about it, that when you're sending me your program file, it needs to be more than just the single connected components workbench file. You need to send the whole folder with all of the subfolders and files in it in a compressed format. That's why I was showing you the zipping process originally. So I'll walk through that a little more in depth. And then lastly, one of you had the misfortune of basically creating a major fault in your processor. Typically that happens when communications is interrupted while you're downloading or uploading from the PLC. And oftentimes if that happens, if you're having trouble connecting, you can unplug your USB cable, remove power from the PLC, so just unplug the power supply off the back of it, then plug power back in, wait till the PLC restarts, and then replug in your USB. That'll clear 80% of your communications issues. But if it's not just a communication issue, if something has actually gone wrong down in the processor, you typically may need to re-download the firmware to the process. That's called flashing the firmware, the basically operating system of the PLC. So I'm going to walk you through how to do that too. So hopefully that will answer some questions. Kind of remember this video is out here in case you lock up your PLC later in the term. Come back to this one as an example of how to download that firmware. Okay, thanks. Email me if you have any questions. So the first thing we're going to do is practice uploading a video file. First I'll do it without compressing it and then do it with compressing it. So if I go to MyMHCC and go to coursework, pretend I'm trying to upload something for the assignment that was due this morning, and choose a file. I'm going to choose something from my computer, just one of the clips I have, and it says invalid file name because it doesn't like uncompressed videos. So that's the issue many of you are running into, and most of you figured out to zip it. But if not, hopefully this will help walk through that process. So I'm going to navigate to where that file is, that little clip, and I'm going to select the file I want to compress. I'm going to right click on it and send to compressed folder. And you can see it created that folder. I would encourage you to always rename it to something that has your name in it, because I download these in groups. So I download everybody's assignment who's turned it in so far. So if you don't have your name in the title, it can be hard for me to be sure I know whose assignment it is without going back and download it individually. So I'll say J Dryden Basic Bit. Okay, and now we'll go back to my MHCC and try again. And so you see now the zip folder shows up, and it liked that fine, and so now I've uploaded my file for the assignment. If your video file is too long, sometimes it'll run into a maximum file size. Again, compressing will help with that. But again, that's why I encourage you to demonstrate it as quickly as you can. Also, depending on how you're recording it, I don't need HD videos. That'll greatly increase the file size. So I would encourage you to record at a lower resolution, like 360 or 480, 720 something, not full HD. Okay, hope that helps for uploading video files. Just remember to zip them. Okay, this next chunk is to go over how do you send me a functional connected components workbench program file. So if you have a program that you're either uploading in response to assignment or I'm trying to help you troubleshoot, I need more than just the file, single file with your project name. So let's take a look at what I mean. So I'm going to open the basic test program that came with all your PLCs, just to use that as an example. Okay, so here's the program, and if I go and look at Save Project As, that shows me where it is currently saved. So it's in my OneDrive in this folder, and you'll see the folder matches the name of the program. So I'm going to go navigate to that location. So here's the folder, IO test program. If I open that, you will see there are more than just the IO test program file. This is the Connected Components Workbench, but I actually need all of these other folders and subfolders and files within it to actually be able to open and work with the project. So if you were going to send me, if I asked you to send me this program, IO test program, you would need to go up one level, and this is the folder you want to zip. So I would go from right here. You can see I've done this once before showing somebody else. I'll delete that one. So right here, I would right click on this and send to compressed folder. Oh, it won't let me do it right now. So I'm glad that happened while we're talking, because I have the program open. This file is open, so it's locked, so I can't edit it. So I need to go back to Connected Components Workbench and close the project before it will let me. So now if I send to folder, it'll create a zip of it. Okay, so now I have the zip file, and this would be what I would upload. So if I was needing to use that to turn in for assignment, again, that zip is what I'd upload. And if I open that up, you'll see inside it, it has my folder and all my subfolders, which if you look in here, there's lots of files, lots of subfolders and whatnot. So that's why if you just sent just that single ccwsln file, it won't function. If you look, the size of that one program file is 1 kilobytes, whereas the whole folder, if you come back up and look at the folder properties, you'll see there's 3 megabytes and 75 different folder files in 12 folders, and we need all of them for it to function correctly. Okay, hopefully that helps with how to send a complete project file folder. So for the last section of this video, I'm going to go over how do you reinstall the firmware on your PLC in case something has gotten really messed up in the processor. So there's a tool within Connected Components Workbench called Control Flash. So if you're here at the intro screen to Connected Components Workbench and go up to Tools, you'll see partway down here is Control Flash. And as I open that, it'll start up. Let's bring that over to where you can see it. You'll see this window here. And I'm going to walk you through this process. I would encourage you, don't try this as your first step when you're having issues. Like I said, cycle power, reconnect your USB. Probably check in with me before you try to flash this, but this is an option to do. The key thing about flashing the firmware is if it gets interrupted mid flash, you can brick the PLC, basically turn it into unrecoverable failure. So this is not a thing to take lightly, but it is a tool that's necessary if something's gone wrong. Or more often what happens when you're flashing the firmware is they've come out with new firmware that offers new features and you need to upgrade the firmware. So in this class we won't be upgrading firmware for feature reasons, but if you lock up a major fault and can't recover from it, you may need to flash the firmware. Okay, so this is the start screen. You can look at previous installs, the log of it. You can look at the inventory of firmware that's included. We're not going to deal with any of that now, so we'll just click next. And it's going to ask us what device that we want to upgrade the firmware for. And as we've said before, the PLC processor that we're using in this class is a 2080 LC10 12QWB. So that was already selected from last time I was in here. It's critical that you make sure you have the right part number before you do this. You can always also get the part number off of the side of the PLC right here, but just got to make sure you're downloading the right firmware, because again, it's another good way to brick it if you install firmware for different hardware than what you actually have. Okay, so that's the right one, so I'm going to move forward. Okay, this is where we're going to select what device we're trying to get to. And just like when you're downloading, you go right through there. So I've selected it and say OK. And before we go on in the process here, I just remembered one thing I should have shown you and made sure before we got into the flashing. If it's in run mode, it really should be, you want to come into program mode before you flash the firmware. So I'm going to come back here. I'm connected to my PLC. I'm going to go to the PLC processor and right here change it from run to program mode. Okay, and then I'll come back to control flash and continue on. So here you could potentially have multiple versions of firmware available for this processor. In this case, we only have the most recent version, 7.012, selected, so that's fine. I'll go on. If you want to see all the previous versions, if you had them downloaded, you would select that. But you and I both should only have the most recent version in our files right now. And we can just review everything again. Part number looks good, and we're looking at the most recent revision. So we'll continue on. Okay. Anytime you're doing something like this, definitely if you see that word danger, you should be reviewing what it's saying. What it says here basically is, as part of flashing the firmware, the processor is going to go completely offline and its operating system is going to be upgraded. And so it will not be performing any functions. So if this is a machine, you need to make sure everybody understands it's going offline and will be so for a while. So that's fine, especially for our little trainers, and we'll go finish, and it should start now communicating. The screen of your PLC, it's okay, it's giving me one more chance to change my mind. And now this progress bar will show you, go through, and if you look at the face of the LCD, it says flash update in progress. So it's critical you not unplug the USB cable or the power cable during this process. And it's a bit of a lengthy process. We'll just wait it out and watch through. So it looks like communication is going fine so far. Progress bar is starting. You can see that the memory blocks being transferred. So I am going to record all of this, but afterwards I'll come back and edit, just clip out a lot of this progress bar time so you don't have to wait through it all. But know that it does take a while for this section to complete. So the first transfer is complete. And now, again, there's a pause as it waits for that step to finish. And if you look at the display of the PLC now, you'll see that it is now asking you to select the language. So English is okay. And now it's back online. And if you look at the control flash window, it says updates complete as well. So that's finished the updating firmware process. So we can say okay, and it'll just revert back. So now if I wanted to download this program, my basic I/O program where I test the I/O, I can do that by going to the processor page, clearing my connection path, looking for it just like it was a brand new processor again. Say OK. And say I want to download my project. Okay, so the download's complete. I'll wait till it gets online here so we can see the ladder. And it should behave, yep, green lamp, orange lamp, red lamp, unless toggled. So we're back to our basically fresh PLC, how you received them from me on day one. And I'll post the zip file of this basic I/O program as a resource on the website so that if you do have to start from scratch, you can have a known good program that you could download into it to test everything. I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any questions about any of this.